Hey, I'm Greg and welcome to my channel, and thank you so much for joining me for the very first episode of Gregg the Artivist. After months in planning, I'm excited to get the channel launched and my first big project underway, a huge cardboard sculpture. But we'll get back to the sculpture just a little bit later on. If you've been following me on my socials leading up to today's launch, then firstly, a huge thank you to you and everyone else for your encouragement and support. It's been greatly appreciated. And the burning question, of course, from everyone is, what is this channel all about? Well, simply put, it's me documenting my journey to having my voice heard about my concerns of the climate crisis through Artivism. And along the way, I'd like to build a community of like-minded people, raising our voices together and taking action to add urgency to the climate crisis issue, and of course, having some fun while we do it. But let's get started at the beginning as I explain this and much more in today's episode. Our planet, the one thing that connects us all. As the climate crisis has society on the edge of extinction, no one can be blamed for feeling overwhelmed. At first, I found it hard to comprehend that our modern existence is rapidly increasing global warming with such catastrophic consequences. But then I felt dismayed. How is it possible that we have left this for so many years to become a state of emergency? After all, we were all warned about the impact of humanity on global warming back in 1973. That's the year I was born, almost half a century ago. But mostly I was feeling useless. I was lost in the science, the misinformation, the denialists and the propaganda. And although I stopped using plastic straws, I took public transport, I recycled my rubbish, and I believed I was doing my part, like so many others, I had comfortably fallen into becoming an inactivist. Unknowingly, I was delaying in taking any real meaningful action. Until one day I had a conversation and it changed everything. I was horrified to hear from one of my closest friends, one of the most caring people that I know, that they were not willing to make any change to their lifestyle. They wanted to enjoy their money without sacrifice. After all, they had worked for it. And they believed that the climate crisis wouldn't have any impact on them in their lifetime. I can honestly say I was shocked, mostly sad, but more importantly, it hit me like a slap in the face. I realized my white Western male privilege, and this was the wake-up call that I needed. Now, I believe we all have a skill and we are all ultimately responsible for the planet. So I've decided to use my skill in art, it's my voice and my tool, in the fight against the lack of commitment and urgency needed for climate action. My question to you is, what tool can you use to take action? For those of you that know me, building a cardboard sculpture is a departure from the art that I've normally been creating, particularly recently. But the one thing about this project that isn't so different to my previous art is that it all started with a dream back in November 2021. Now, I'm a prolific and vivid dreamer. I love to take inspiration from them, and I record them the following morning as part of my ideas diary. It's the 13th of November. I think. Just an art idea to add to the rest. Very strange dream last night, very vivid as always. I think it'd be great for the dream sequence of art that I've been doing, although to be honest, I'm not really quite sure how I'm going to realize it or bring it to life just yet. But essentially, I wake up in a very deserted area, and there's nothing in front of me at all until I turn around and I see this huge, massive even monument or sculpture behind me. And the first thing that I realize about this is that it's a number of broken columns or pillars, very square in shape, something that you would see in front of a government building. And on top of the platform of one of these pillars is a very geometrical sort of designed human figure, although it's quite non-descriptive. And it looks injured. It's kind of propping itself up with one arm, and the other arm is reaching out with its hand out. And in its hand is this single plant growing. It's the only greenery to be seen anywhere in the area. And as I'm kind of looking at that, I'm realizing that this figure is actually being pinned down to the column by a huge dagger, a beautifully geometrical, detailed dagger, much more detailed than the figure. And the handle of this dagger is a very masculine male body, huge chest, abs. It doesn't have any arms on it, but it has this head that has three faces with these very stern looks, kind of looking out at three different directions. And then in almost like a religious kind of sense, there's this huge industrial clog behind the head of this dagger, which has these kind of razor-sharp chainsaw blades around the edges of the clog. And as my more interesting dreams often do, this dream lingered around in my mind for the coming days. So what actually was going on in my life to have this particular dream? Well, I believe it's a combination of several factors. The fact that the dream surrounds a statue or monument was most definitely influenced by the weeks leading up to the dream, when I had been researching former Soviet and Eastern European monuments and statues. I love the angled lines and the abstract shapes. They give such strength and meaning in communicating their message. They're super powerful and they demand attention, and it's something that we rarely see today, and something I would love to achieve in a piece of art. Although you may not see the relationship just yet, and I will explain this much more in the coming up episodes, but the subject matter of this statue was clearly influenced by my fears of the climate crisis. I would say that, the last 10 to 15 years, the climate and environment is probably the single biggest thing on my mind every day. And I pretty much read and watch everything I can to be as fully informed as I can. And during the pandemic the last couple of years, several of the crisis narratives and events began to frustrate me. Firstly, this push still for climate adaptation. Now, the science on this is so very clear. We know the causes of our modern life is speeding up global warming. We know the solutions we need to take, and we have the resources we need to tackle the problems. But somehow we are still lacking commitment and urgency. And adaptation, although it is important, it's just one of many tools in the toolbox. And by headlining adaptation alone, we're simply ignoring the urgency and hard commitments we need to make. And secondly was COP26, the climate conference held in Glasgow during October and November 2021. We all know that even if the world can meet all of the targets we agreed upon, we still can't achieve the objective of a 1.5 degree increase. It's more likely to be something like 1.8 to 2.4 degrees by 2030. Now, that may not sound like a big difference, but I actually heard one of the COP advisors saying on TV, if we can just keep it around 2-degree increase, it might be okay. Now, again, this is blatantly ignoring commitment and urgency. But why am I saying this? Well, the scientific community for a long time now, in fact, has been fearing something they call the tipping point. This is irreversible damage caused to ecosystems due to climate increase. And this has a much more catastrophic change than we're even able to understand at this point in time. So is 2 degrees really okay? Many scientists think not. And the final influence, I believe, is injustice. Now, injustice is just one of those things I could never get my head around. I still can't get my head around it, and I'm not actually sure how I've even made it through life, given the impact that injustice has on me, whether it's something that I read, hear, witness, or personally experience. And during the last couple of years, as some of you will know, I've been caught up in an injustice nightmare. And far too often, I really felt beaten and let down by the system that's designed to protect us, as many people do. And far too often, I also caught myself believing, as we've been told, that one person can't make a difference. But then I remembered just prior to the pandemic, during a visit to see my family in Australia, I went to an exhibition about Artivism, and that's the combination of art and activism. I can truly say I left feeling inspired and empowered. I felt that through my art, I could have a voice about these things concerning me. And looking back through time, art has always had such a huge social influence. So summarizing it all up, I guess at the time of this dream, it was just simply my tipping point. I have simply had enough of watching the climate injustice by corporations, industry, but most of all our governments, those elected officials we have voted to protect us. And my rediscovery of Artivism, my concerns about the planet, my need to call out injustice, I really just want to stand up, speak out, and take action. Phew. Now, with all of that off my chest, it's time to have some fun and get this project underway, but we simply don't have enough time in today's episode. So please do join me in the next episode when I get stuck in from taking this project from a dream to paper to 3D modeling and much more. I really do hope that you've enjoyed the show today, and I'd really love to hear what you have to think. So please feel free to leave comments in the comment box below. And please remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and do click on that bell to be notified of new episodes. More so, if you'd like any more information about today's episode, then you might consider joining me over at Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description box below. So until next time, take care, and remember, you too can have your voice heard and make a real difference.